Welcome to the State of Our Union, the podcast where real love meets real life. I am your host, Karen Williams, author, speaker, and wife of over 30 years. This is the space for honest conversations around marriage, commitment, conflict, healing, and learning how to choose each other daily. And it's even during the times when life gets heavy, because love isn't just about the vows we take. It's about the work we're willing to do together. Each week, we'll have conversations that inspire, challenge, and remind you that even through loss, disappointment, and change, your relationship can grow stronger. So wherever you're listening from, whether you're driving, cooking, working out, or lying in bed wondering if you're alone in this, just know you're not alone. So take a breath, lean in, and let's talk about the real state of our union. Hello, everyone. It is such an amazing day here in Las Vegas. And so I want to welcome you to another episode of the State of Our Union and the Fight to Keep It. My guests today are Raymond and Antionette Perry, and they're out of Maryland. I'm so excited that they're here. They are pastors. They've been married forever. I can't remember, 30 something years. They're going to tell you for sure. But they have such an amazing story, just how God has shown up, through so many different challenges. And they're going to lead you through that. And so to get this kicked off today, we're going to let you both introduce yourself to our audience and tell them a little bit about yourselves.
Good evening, everybody. I am Antionette Perry. I am blessed to pastor with my husband. He is the senior pastor, and I am actually an educator by trade, an administrator in school, and we have been married forever.
That's true. And hello, everybody. I'm Raymond. We have been married for actually 31 years. We have been pastoring for 10 years, get ready to celebrate 11 years, but we've been in ministry for almost 30 years. So it's 31, 30, and 10. So that's our numbers. And I also work in education. I am a school counselor, and I've been in the education field almost 25 years.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow. That's a lot of decades.
Yeah, we've both been in education over 20-some years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because I remember when we met, I know you were a principal at one of the might have been an elementary school at the time, Antoinette. And so even when I met you then, I'm thinking, oh, God bless her. Because, you talk about, I mean, the school system and all the challenges that goes on with that. But hey, we're not talking about the schools today. We're going to talk about you guys and what some of the amazing things that, God has done in you guys' life. As you know, this podcast is really aimed at that one couple that been married a little bit between, say, 3 to 5 years, and the honeymoon is on the other side of it. And so a lot of times the challenge there is, I don't know what to do. I think I married the wrong guy. We don't know how to talk to each other. I don't even like him anymore. I don't like her anymore. So we want to make sure that those couples don't give up too early. They stay in there, have those hard conversations, and learn from those of us who've been married for a while. Rob and I have been married 33, it'll be 34 years this year. And, of course, our audience that's been following us for a little bit, they know we have 4 children and 5 grandkids. And so we've gone through those little rough patches to where we say, I don't know, should we, and, we were having a hard conversation before about, hey, did we ever got to a point where we were just done and, we got talked into staying. And although that wasn't our hard story, but I'm very candid with the fact that when the kids were teenagers, I felt like I'm leaving you and your kids. I'm gonna go find me an apartment because I don't know what's going on right here. So I get it. It is a rough season. So if you could share with the audience what was some of, or probably the most recent for you guys, or during that period for you, what were some of those challenges that you guys, faced and decided that, hey, we're gonna just lock in and do this? Share with them what some of those instances were.
Sure. So we are parent. We have three children. We are actually a blended family. Yeah. We have what we
Hmm.
call a his, a hers, and a ours. So
Right.
he has a daughter, I have a daughter, and together we have a son. Yeah. And then from that we have six grandchildren. And I
Hmm.
coming in our early years, we had, I would have to say for us, we didn't have what we say model marriages. Just being
Right.
transparent. We had his grandmother. So we knew what we wanted and we knew what we did not want. And so
Hmm.
actually we we stayed away from what we saw happen in other marriages. And it's like, okay, we're not doing that. I
Right.
would say that in our early years, communication was um, a challenge and unspoken expectations. Um,
Yes.
so
Yes.
I'll
Those two. Go into it. Do it.
come on.
Say it.
So one of the things that, as my wife said, we again the one marriage our family had was our grandparents, and so we
Mhm.
looked at them and we always wondered, how did they stay married? They actually were married 67 years before my grandfather had passed. So that was the
Wow.
generational that we looked at and was like, wow. But everybody else, they were having great relationships and then they would get divorced or they would be
Mm.
remarried. And so when we looked at that, not what we wanted, I think that was one of our
Right.
biggest challenges. And so at first we had these, as we said, the unspoken expectations. We expected
Mhm.
and believed that, we were going to do the way, pay bills the way that the world says we should pay them and everything was going to be great. But we had to be honest. I mean, we both came into this relationship with bills. We both came into this relationship with different spending habits. We both came into this relationship from a different angle. And I think many
Yeah.
times we forget that, I was a single man living on my own and I knew survival versus my wife who came into the
Hey.
marriage. She was taking care of her daughter and her mom. And so she's coming
Mhm.
in from a different angle.
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So much right there. So you referred to your grandparents who had been married 67 years. Now, the conversation around marriages from that era. Oh, she only stayed because she couldn't get a credit card on her own. She only stayed because she couldn't do this on her own and all of the things. But based on your observation of your grandparents, what were some of the things that stuck out to you? Like the day-to-day things that you saw them doing that you could say, "Yes, I wanna do that."
The one thing we knew about my grandparents and even my wife when she met them,
Mhm.
they loved each other. There was
Yeah.
never a doubt in our minds. So you got to imagine they got married as teenagers and
Mhm.
they came through many decades. But the things that I loved about them was that one of my favorite things is my grandfather did not believe in arguing. He
Mm.
was the type of person he would let my grandmother get all her fussing out. But when he had enough, he would just say, call her by her first name. And she knew at that point, he's done with this conversation. And it was always amazing to us because, we knew that from being with them. And the first time I remember
Right.
my wife was there and, it happened. I was cracking up and my wife was like, what are you laughing at? So we got in the car. I said, did you realize they were arguing? And she was like, what?
Uh-huh.
I was like, yeah, they were really arguing. You had no clue.
Mhm. And what
Oh
that
my
taught
god.
me, because I came from seeing relationships where all they did was argue. So
Yeah.
watching grandmother and grandfather, And even when grandfather called her name, he called it with love and respect.
Yeah.
It wasn't a yell.
Yeah.
And even when he says to let grandmother fuss, she wasn't yelling. She was just,
Getting a point across.
getting a point across. So what
Yeah,
that
she
taught,
expressing herself.
right. What that taught us, because when we got married, we had children. We came in with
Mhm.
children. So we didn't have a point of no children until now. We're empty nesters. But
Right.
learning from grandmother and grandfathers, we did not argue in front of our children. So
Mm.
they could tell maybe with body language, because, children can pick up on
Uh-huh.
it, but
Right.
they cannot tell you that they heard mom and dad fussing, yelling, and arguing. Because for us, it was our situation that we had to work out and not
Mhm.
theirs.
Right, right, right. That is so true. And even having the conversation with our adult children, I was talking to my son, and he actually flipped it on me. He said, "Mom, I kind of wish I heard you and Dad arguing sometimes because I would have learned how to fight well." And I was
Mm.
like,
Mm.
"Oh, didn't think about that because
Yeah.
the thing is, it's not that we figured out how to fight well. We just okay, well, we don't know how to fight, so we're not gonna let them hear us fight. We don't know how to do it well. I think we learned how to do it well as we got older. But it's the same thing because I was married. We were both married before we got divorced, and then we got married. Um, but one of the things I had made the decision that I don't want to do marriage the same way I did. Now, like you said, I didn't even know how to. I just know what I didn't want.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so important to when you go in your marriage, not just going with, I know what I don't want, but we actually need some tangible tools to actually build our
Mhm.
marriage from the ground
Yes.
up,
Yes.
and social media and memes.
Right.
That's
Right.
correct.
I know
We
one of the
need act.
Right. I know one of the
Yeah, go
things
ahead.
I wish we had. So like when my husband proposed, I was actually a member of a church. I mean, and he was too, but I was Pentecostal. And so when he asked me to
Mhm,
marry him, we went to our pastor, just knowing we were going to get marriage counseling, and all of that. And we actually had two sessions.
mhm.
The first one, um, I felt like, oh my dear, they're trying to convince me not to get married. Because when I tell you they brought out everything negative about marriage, and I later learned that they were just seeing had we thought it through. And
Yeah.
then the second session was just talking about asking us what we were going to do about the children and what church we were going to join. So I always
Mhm.
tell people, especially those who are engaged or those even who are early on in their marriage, to have counseling
Yeah.
is good, and it's needed even after saying I
Yeah.
do.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. We're taking we're putting such a stigma on premarital coaching, therapy, counseling, whatever that type of relationship education is. We put such a stigma on it as if, oh, something must be wrong with my relationship if I'm seeking help. And that is so far from the truth. I think it's
Mhm.
and listen, we're gonna go to church for a second, but it's a lie from the enemy that
Uh-huh.
this is what is something wrong because uh, at the end of the day, when we end up without the tools, that's when things fall apart. That's
Yeah.
when, those disagreements come in. You talked about the communication and the the unspoken expectations. And that can be, even you guys that you were in different churches, that can even be an unspoken expectation. Well, I thought I
Uh-huh.
was going to go to your church, or I thought you were going to come to my church.
Right.
Well, you didn't talk.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that we do when people come to us and ask about doing counseling, or they ask our
Hmm.
opinion. And I'm a
Yeah.
firm believer that there's nothing wrong with good counseling, but I think great counseling is important. And what's the difference? Good counseling can be like what we got. We got good counsel, but it wasn't great
Hmm.
counseling. Great counseling should
Right.
cause you to walk away with some homework. It should cause you to walk away and think about, what did we just talk about? It's,
Mhm.
one of our biggest challenges is that, one, we're not asking you to tell us your business, but we are asking you to walk out of here and talk about this. So we
Yeah.
try our best to talk about the things that no one ever talked to us about. What is
Yes.
and what are your spending habits? What's your credit like? Why did your credit get that way? What's your
Mhm.
what's your viewpoint on marriage, even before we get into it?
Yes.
What's your viewpoint on children? What's your viewpoint
Mhm.
on, all of those things? Even now, one of our things that we talk about is, what are your plans for, if something happens? Do you have
Yes.
things in place? Do you have
Mhm.
insurance in place? Have you thought about that? It's not an easy subject to talk about, but it's
Mhm.
better to do it while you can talk about it than to do it when it's too late.
Exactly. Exactly.
And if I could, because the teacher in me, the educator in me, always want to give like practical tips. So some
Yes.
people say, but I don't know how to communicate. I didn't hear it. And my family, all they did was argue. So what is something that I could do? And there's something that we learned, and that we do, especially when, you're not seeing eye to eye, but you don't want to start an
Mhm.
argument. And so as we're talking, we've made, where we will say, like if Raymond say something to me, then when I say it back to him, okay, so what I hear you saying is,
Mhm.
that way I'm not blaming,
Mhm.
I'm not pointing the finger at him. I'm sharing with him,
Yes.
this is what I just heard you say. And that gives the
Yes.
opportunity for him to say, nope, that's not what I was saying. So
Mhm.
it cuts
Mhm.
down on the tension.
Yes, yes. The, what they call that technique, the mirroring. And so that is
Uh-huh.
definitely so important because a lot of times the way something comes out or, again, in my because I know myself the best. When when we first got married, I was the one that would always um filter everything my husband said through my own insecurities. I will feel it, I mean, mind you, because he has always been that cut through the chase guy, just bluntly say what he needed to say. And every question he asks, it gets filtered through that. And it's like, well, are you saying that? He's like, I never said that. But it comes off like that's what you're trying to say, to the point I said, dude, when I talk to you, I always feel like an idiot because he questions everything. He asks details. And sometimes I don't know. That was our
Yes.
fight. That was our continuous, going back and forth. And he's like, let me tell you, when I ask a question, the words that you hear, that's all I'm saying. There's no motive behind it. But the thing is, he had to go first and create that safe space for me to be able to say, all right, this is not what he means. He's not, again, we are the same team. I think you guys use the word collaborator or collaborators, with your spouse. You're not enemies. You're not
Yeah.
fighting against each other. And that is such a, when I say w- couples need to know that, that little underlying competition and that, those, what I say, underlying aggression that we have against each other. We gotta stop that.
Yeah, for sure. And I know, like for me, like I said, I know myself best. I came in with a lot of baggage. One of them being that I did not trust. I had trouble trusting, not just trusting in general, but trusting
Mhm.
men because of
Mhm.
what
Mhm.
I'd been through. So because I
Yeah.
had trouble trusting because of what I've been through, I took it out on him. He hadn't done anything.
Mhm. Yeah.
So again, one of
Yeah.
those unspoken expectations. So now I'm
Mhm.
looking at him cross-eyed, for something that an ex did or the dad did or didn't do, and I'm looking at him. He's
Yeah.
like, "Hold up, wait a minute, I didn't do this." But what I thank
Yeah.
God for is His patience. So He had to
Yes.
be patient, not just with Antoinette, his wife, but Antoinette,
Mhm.
the one that was scarred.
Yes.
So.
Yes. 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 because I showed up with my own scars. I showed up with my own scars. And it goes back again. Listen, if somebody asked me, what advice was I given in my younger years that I had not listened to? And I said, if I had listened to my mom, I would have only been married one time because, I'm like, oh, this, he got to be the guy. He must be the guy. And because at 21, we know everything, we're the smartest, spoon in the drawer. And I remember, believe it or not, guys, I was walking down the aisle knowing that this is not what I should be doing.
Wow.
I knew it.
Mm.
I knew it and I did it anyway. But what I'm hoping for is as we sit down and have these conversations and create space for these conversations, that one couple will hear this information and bring up the conversation, ask the question. As coaches, as counselors, or we don't try to fix things. We point out the areas that you better be having a conversation about.
Right.
You better be talking about this. You better be discussing this. I've had couples that call off their wedding after we get done working together
Mhm.
because you said you had this much money and you got this much debt and you lied about this and you lied about that because you're going to have a conversation with me. We're going to talk
Yes.
about it.
Yes.
Because you're gonna bring the credit, you're gonna bring that credit report to our session. You guys gonna look at it. You're gonna know what each other. Because I don't need to know, but that person
Right.
sitting next to you needs to
Needs
know,
to know.
like you
Yep.
said earlier, what your spending habits are. What for one, what your financial personality is like. Who's a spender? Who's a hoarder? Who's a saver? Right?
Mhm.
And that conversation needs to be happening because a lot of times those are the little things that gets in there and becomes the center of your contention,
Yeah.
and you don't even know. Are we arguing? Well,
Yeah.
because there's no money in the bank account, and we can't go out to dinner, and I can't buy this for
Ooh.
the kids, and I don't want to think I'm a bad parent, and it rolls downhill.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was
Big.
a big issue with us because we did have two different financial mindsets. Now we're totally
Yeah.
different people now, but the mindset was different
Right.
because being a single mom, my
Yep.
mindset was, okay, I do pay my bills and I work hard, but then when I got tired, let me tell you something. What I would do is I'd go shopping and worry about the bills later. Okay. And after we got married, the first time I did that, I brought my bags home. And he looked at
Uh-huh.
it. He said, "What happened?" And I said, "Well, I got tired.
Mhm.
I work hard. I went shopping." He said, "Okay, let's get in the car. We're gonna go take all that back."
Yeah.
Listen, Raymond, I think you and my husband had a conversation at some point. I don't know when, but you guys talked about this. I guarantee it because I remember going back to the store with things.
Mhm.
His question is, you think that is the best use of our finances right now?
Right.
Mhm.
Hmm. It's not saying no, you can't have those things. He's just
Just
asking the question and leave it up to
right now.
me.
Yeah, that was again, that was an unspoken expectation because again,
Yeah.
I was single and I was a survivor. So when she met me, I was
Yes.
working 3 jobs because I
Uh-huh.
refused to live the life that I had seen. I didn't want anybody
Yeah.
taking anything from me. I had to turn in a car and I'll never forget how much that broke my heart, but it was the
Yeah.
best wisdom for me at the moment because I had to decide keep a car to keep an up look of what everybody thought or have an apartment. Well, I needed the
Yeah.
apartment because I was on my own. So, I rode a bike for 1 year. And I rode a
Uh-huh.
bike from Dalmore to Salisbury. So let's say I'm riding about 30 to 45 minutes to work every day. And I did it
Mm-hmm.
faithfully. And
Yeah.
then I bought myself a car, and I did those things. So when we met, the bills were the most important because the one thing I told her, no one's taking anything from us. If we go get it
Mhm.
and it comes to this house, then it stays. So
Yeah.
let's not put ourselves in any financial situations where it can't stay. And don't force me to have to go take on another job if it's not
Yeah.
something we've already chosen. because then
Yes.
you've created a whole nother world. Because if you can't pay your bills with the income you have coming in, getting another job, you're still not going to fix it. You're going to find yourself,
Ex
well, we got some extra money this week, so and you're going to continue the same habit. And that's what I didn't want.
Yes.
So, bills got to be paid first, and then we can divvy up the rest. Again, I'm not saying she can't have it. The one thing my wife knows, I love for her to look wonderful. I love for her to enjoy life, but we got to make
Yes.
sure these bills are paid.
And if
Exactly. Exactly.
and if I could, two things that early on in our marriage that dealt with finances. One of
Mhm.
them, and I share this with, and I hear mostly young ladies saying it, where they will order things or they'll do whatever, and then they'll say, "But I hid it. He don't even know I did it." My thing
Oh
is you're
my god. Go
together.
there.
You're
Ooh, go there. Go
out and
there.
about.
Yes.
You have to hide it. That means you don't need it because you're going against a goal or something, an agreement that you had with your husband. So if you have to
Yes.
hide, it has to be a secret, then it shouldn't be. That's something
Yes.
I pull everything up, be like, look, this is what I did. But I do share that.
Yeah.
And then something else that we had to come through. So although I'm not the oldest in my family, I am the one who took care of the family. And my
Mhm.
husband will tell you, and I agree, that they knew my pay dates better than I knew my own. And so, not only is it our household, now we have funding that's going to
Yeah.
other households, which was hindering us from meeting our goals. So that's another thing to really think about as a
Yeah.
young couple. How many hands are
Yes.
in your pocket?
Come on now.
Yes. Yes. Oh my God. That is one of the questions I always bring up to the young couples, especially the ones that are engaged and coming in for the premarital work. Um, is that first of all, how many people are do you where does your money have to go every
Yes.
month? And let's
Mhm.
fast forward down the road. When your parents get older, where are they going?
Yes.
Don't
Yes.
pretend that just because that's your mama, they're moving in your house. That conversation needs to happen because
Amen.
the thing is, one couple said, "Oh, we'll just cross that bridge when we get there." Um, I don't even know what to say to you, because right now it's, people in our age group, our parents, or if they have not already passed, they're at that age where we have to start deciding where are they going to go, how are we going to
Mhm.
show up for them, obviously if whether they're going to get home care or whatever that looks like. And that conversation needs to be had. And it's almost like they think you're throwing a wet blanket on their excitement or, the whole wedding planning thing. But the wedding, that's just one day. Your marriage is
Yes.
Yes.
supposed to be forever,
Forever. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know?
We
Oh my
yeah.
God. But Angela, before you do that, I wanted to go back to the hiding things because that is so deep to me. And I hear that conversation as well. And I want to speak to the young lady that is listening to this, that feel like when they go shopping, they have to hide something. Trust and believe that that is the first step. That is the devil sticking his big toe into your marriage,
Yes.
creating and planting a seed of deception. It's
Yes.
not about the clothes that you're hiding. It's not about the clothes. It's not about that shoes. It's not about that bag. It is a seed of deception. And when seeds are planted, there's a harvest coming.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I'd also like to say to the men, we also have to be careful. Sometimes the things that we like can seem like it's not a big deal. For some men, it's tools. For some men,
Hmm.
it's the new part for a car. For some men, it's the
Yes.
things that they collect. And it can be the same
Hmm.
thing. If you're doing it
Hmm.
and you're not willing to inform your spouse, then it becomes an issue because you start thinking, well, this is my money. And then you get into that
Right.
and then it starts to grow another seed because now if I do that, then my wife is looking at me going, so when'd you get that?
Mhm.
but you
Mhm.
told me I couldn't have this, but you went and got
Yeah,
that.
and so right, and if you're buying that, then I can buy
Then I
these.
can go buy something
Mhm.
else. So you have to have,
Yes,
again, that's a conversation you have to have, and you have to be
correct.
honest. I mean, I know some people who love Lowe's. Like they can't go a week without going into Lowe's. May not buy anything, but they need to go in
Mhm,
there. Um, so like I'm a golfer. I love to golf, but my wife knows me well
mhm,
enough to know, number one, I'm not going anywhere that's going to be really expensive. Cause I don't like to see
right.
my money go fast. I like my money to go real slow.
Right.
So she knows that if I say, honey, I feel like I need to go golfing, she knows number one, I've already planned
Mhm,
for it.
Mhm.
I've already been saving for it.
mhm,
And what I'm going to use is
mhm.
not going to affect our money for the things that we've already set in place.
And I would share, if you don't mind,
Exactly.
to the couples that are
Of course.
listening, is that a way to help with that, again, is going back to communication
Mhm,
and making sure that those expectations are set. So when we sat and we talked about it, first of all, we sit to the table and we do our finances together. And then we also,
yeah,
have the goals. And I know that you talk about that as well. But we agreed that anything that comes to finances, and I know some people are like, well, I'm not going to ask permission because I'm grown and I have a job. It's not about asking permission. It's about being in unity and having those set
yeah,
goals and working together.
exactly, exactly. And it goes to, because what I'm hearing you say, it didn't use the word, but what I'm hearing you say is come to the table and hammer out that vision. And
Yes,
anything that you're doing that's not focusing on that vision, anything that goes against that vision, we need to abandon that. That's what I'm
Mhm.
hearing.
Exactly. Setting, and
Yeah,
we
that's
did, in several areas of our life, we have our vision and then we have those attainable goals. So every month we have monthly goals to get us to that ultimate. So here's where we want to be at the end of the year. And every month,
mhm,
this is it. And we sit down at the end of the month and say, what did we do? What do we need to
mhm.
go back to? And
We didn't do.
right.
Because
Yeah,
sometimes we didn't do any of the stuff. We got so caught up
In life.
in life that
yeah,
we
yeah,
just didn't get to it. And so
Mhm.
but it was important for us to be honest. Um,
yeah,
to be able to say, hey, you know what? We missed it this month. We didn't do anything we said we were going to do. And so now let's
mhm,
backtrack.
yeah,
We always say that we wish that we could put Walmart and Amazon on our taxes because we get a lot of money back. Uh, but, but then even with that, we had to kind of stop and go, look at how much
yeah,
money I don't know if anybody's ever done it. So this is another tip. Go through your checkbook and write down every place that you spend and you'll quickly
mhm,
figure out where you spend the most money, whether it's an Amazon,
mhm,
whether it's Walmart, whether it's Food Line, whether it's Shein, because that's a devil's trap right there. Um,
mhm,
or
mhm.
or
I
the
agree.
dollar store, because it's easy because you
Yeah,
say, oh, well, this is only $5, and the next thing you know, your $5 has gone from $5 to $75. And so you just have to be
yes,
careful.
yeah,
And I think when you take the time to do that, which is something we did, we were amazed at how much money we were actually spending in some of these places. And
yeah,
then we started looking at, did we really need to go get that?
Mhm.
Was that important
yeah,
at the time? Could we have waited for a different time? Could we have waited for a sale? So we had
mhm,
to just change our way of thinking. It was us coming together to change our mindset is how
yes,
we want to do it.
So, Karen, you
yes,
brought up a topic when you talked about preparing for when we have to take care of our parents or
mhm,
just to share from, and we won't, because it could be a lot, but won't go into a lot, but the importance of being able to do that. And we both can speak to that because unfortunately, I was my mother's primary caretaker, and
mhm,
she's transitioned on, and both of my husband's parents transitioned on, and we help with them. That is
mhm,
extremely important because it also impacts your relationship. Just for my mother alone, because I was her primary one. We didn't know the
mhm,
extent that it would be on our relationship, but I literally lived with my mother Monday through Friday, came home Saturday and Sunday. And if we did not
Mhm.
have a solid relationship and had spoke about how we would take care of my mother, that could have been
Mhm.
the end to our marriage.
Yes. Yes. Speak to that. Speak to that. It's so important that, because as you were wrapping up with the other topic, I was gonna do this topic shift into this very conversation. Um, 'Cause we act as if our relationship can just, survive in and of itself when these challenges show up, and that's not true. They can't. So if you don't mind, you share as much as you guys are comfortable with sharing,
Sure.
but I wanna at least hear what were some of that day to day? What did that day to day look like? What are some of the things that, because we can, I can speak to that in my own after you share, but I wanted to hear from you guys. What were some of those things that, you just look up and like, Lord Jesus, I need you today.
Yeah. So my mother, I've taken care of my mother since I was 15. I've always been there. I'm
Mhm.
mama's girl, have always been there. Unfortunately, before she transitioned for 2 years, we saw her decline. So what that
Yeah.
looked like for us was, it started out with me having to take off my job to take her to the appointments because she wasn't comprehending what they were saying. And the times that I didn't
Right.
take her, she would just end up calling me upset. So not only
Mhm.
was it physical, like a physical tiring, it was a mental and an emotional
Yeah.
draining, for me personally. And I'll speak for me just to kind of share what headspace and heart space I was in, and then, how it
Mhm.
transpired into my relationship with my husband and my children. And then my mom
Mhm.
got to the point where she could not live by herself. So I
Yeah.
worked a full-time job. So I had to find someone to sit with her, which is finances,
Mhm.
okay? Because that
Yep.
came out of
Yep.
our pocket, right? Had to
Yep.
find someone to sit with mom while I was working. And then I would get off of work, go to my mother's house because that's where I spent the night, Monday through
Sure.
Friday. Um, and then like during the time when I wasn't here, I'm cooking her dinner, I'm cleaning her house, I'm doing her laundry. I am actually orchestrating her care, the therapist and all of those
Right.
from work. So, but then I'm still trying to connect with my husband. So we're on the phone, talking late at night, or he would come to my mother's house just so that we could see each other. We would FaceTime
Yes.
each other, but that was emotionally draining. So not only was he
Yes.
dealing with me being physically tired, he's also dealing with me being emotionally drained because I'm watching my
Yes.
mother decline.
Mm.
I'll
Decline.
let you
Yeah.
speak from your.
And so on the
Yeah.
other
From your.
side of that, because I love mom, we were blessed because our mothers were best friends and we have to take care of them. So I remember the first time I started noticing that mom was struggling, remembering things, and we had to have that conversation. And I knew it was
Yeah.
heartbreaking for my wife to hear, hey, mom is having some challenges. And so I would take her to her appointments as well.
Mhm.
Um, and so
I'm sorry, he would take her to the appointments as well because he knew there were times when I didn't have the capacity.
absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, and mom trusted me. So, it was easy to do it for her. Um, and so we were dealing with that. We had to watch and, this is not just in the last couple of years. This has been going on
Mhm.
through our relationship. We watched this woman, her entire life. And so,
Yes.
while my wife is there and I'm watching her going through this emotionally, it's affecting me because I'm in the process of preparing to graduate. I'm in college. So we're
Yeah.
past through. I'm in college.
I'm
Um,
counting it. I'm counting. Wait a minute,
And
because I'm
full-time
hearing
job.
so far,
so we're
you
we're
working the
both in
job,
full-time
you're
jobs.
pastoring,
Yes.
you're still parenting. right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
I mean, and all of these jobs is not that you're showing up and you're just in your space and you're working. People are pulling virtue
Schooling.
out of you
Yes.
every single time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because of the areas that we work in, there was no way around it. I'm in school to be a school counselor, so that's what we do. So the people are always
Mhm.
pulling. She's a principal, so she has an entire staff. She has the entire school. She has the parents. So we're dealing with that. And again, our church is a few years old when this is going on. So we're dealing with that. We're in transition. There's so many things that are happening, and we
Mhm.
were able to get through it through a lot of conversation.
Yeah.
Um, and
Yes.
while she's there taking care of mom, I'm here at the house making sure that everything is done, making sure that the house is straight, making sure that things are ready for her. So making sure I would call and say, hey, what do you think about wearing tomorrow? Getting clothes out for my
Mhm.
wife, making sure she's ready so she doesn't have to stress, checking on the children. Going over, staying as late as possible, sometimes staying over and getting up early and coming home because I didn't want her to be by herself.
Right.
It was a draining time, but
Mhm.
it was a learning time. And then on top of that, with my family, I was the youngest of the group. So my
Mhm.
oldest sister was taking care of my mother, but I was her backup. My oldest brother was
Right.
taking care of our father, but I was the backup. So we're
Yes.
taking care of three parents at the same time, along with everything else. Yeah.
And as I'm listening, I'm thinking, geez, because every one of those things, like Jesus said, the woman that grabbed onto the hem of his garment, she pulled virtue from him. Every one of this
Mhm.
group of people is pulling something from you. This, whether it's like you said, whether it's the parents, the teachers, the students, your parent, as your parents being ill. And now you guys got to tell us how you get through, over, around. How how did you move through that day to day and cared well for each other and yourselves?
Being transparent, there were moments where we didn't do it well. We didn't
Mhm.
do it because we were tired. So there were times when, where we
Yeah.
were snippy. But what we, first of all, of course, through prayer,
Yeah.
but we had to be intentional. We had
Mhm.
to make sure because we knew that Friday night, all day Saturday, and Sunday till Sunday, probably around 3-ish, is the only time that we had together. So we had to protect that time and not give it to
Yes.
anybody else. Now, of course, Sunday
Yes.
morning was church, but that Friday night and that Saturday became our time and our time only. And of course, the children came over, but we were intentional
Mhm.
about date nights. We were intentional about, even sometimes we didn't want to go anywhere.
Mhm.
Just kind of sit and cuddle. Hey, how are you doing for real?
Yeah.
There were times
Yes.
when I had to
Yes.
break down and I'm crying so hard that only he could understand what I was saying.
Mhm.
That's
Mhm.
how I believe that's how I was able to get through it because I knew that even when I wasn't able to speak exactly how I was feeling, he heard me loud and clear. And
Yes.
that came because of the communication before.
Yeah.
So it
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I felt like it was super important, as she said, for us to fight for our time. That was a
Yes.
time when we kind of stopped taking engagements. Um,
Mhm.
we were only doing the necessary things. And even with that, it got hard. Staying up late, trying to do homework, one of the parts we didn't talk about was for a part of that time, I was actually leaving. I got permission to leave work early so that I could go relieve the person that was sitting with Mom Holland, so that I could be there to relieve her so she could leave. And I was there until my wife got off, and then we did all the necessary stuff before I could even come home. And so, I would still have to try to get homework done. And so there were just moments, and as she said, we did not do it well. We were cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, for no other way to really describe it. We were seeking out counseling. We were definitely asking our friends to pray for us. because we knew we had friends that saw the heaviness on us, but we couldn't
Yes.
always express it. We couldn't always, you have to find a safe space because we're dealing with so much. And
Mhm.
it was hard sometimes to find people. And then we didn't want to bring everybody down because we were dealing with it, but we really needed those times. And so we were blessed to have a few friends that were, able to say, "Hey man, come on, let's take a ride. Or we're coming to get your wife. Do you mind? Oh, take her, go do what you need to do because we need these moments." But it had to be
Yes.
outside of that time that we had together because we knew, this is the only time we're going to have this week.
I also learned,
Yeah.
and I know that this is a lesson that God taught me throughout this process. One
Mhm.
is that I'm not superwoman because I literally, because I am a perfectionist, um, I had to do everything. But I learned
Speak
to
to
tell,
it, sis.
right, because I did. Things had to be done this way, this time. Nobody can do it better than me, and I would tire myself
Yeah.
out. But going through this process with my mother, his parents, we actually endured 7 close deaths in 3 years.
Yeah.
And I think it was 3 or 4
Wow.
of them was within a half a year,
Yeah.
maybe. It was literally almost every month. So
Yeah.
I became okay and comfortable with saying to people, "I'm sorry, I don't have the capacity to do that right now." And I felt okay because before I would feel guilty.
Yes.
So, speaking
Mhm.
to the females, even to the couples, it is okay, one, to not be okay. And two, it is okay
Yes.
to say, I do not have the capacity to do that right now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's so important to know, or for one, sound like you guys had excellent boundaries. So
Oh,
the
we
We
boundaries were in
found them.
place.
we found them. Yeah.
Because like you said, you will tire yourself out.
Yeah.
And what I love about you both agreed the importance of being intentional about your alone time, your together time. Nothing comes in the way of that. You need
Right.
to have those things in place. There's just certain things that just need to be non-negotiables. We are going to do this once a week, once a month, whatever that
Yep.
looks like, because that's how you build your relationship. There were so many, as you know, there were so many relationships, marriages, committed relationships, whatever, that died during COVID because
Absolutely.
Yes.
people were finding themselves spending time with each other. And suddenly, I don't know if I really like you like that. And why? Because they didn't even know each other,
Hmm.
and we're both, we're in the empty nest space right along with you guys. And there's, to me, and I know for you guys, but, to me as well, it's like, this is the best time of my life. I'm like, baby, we can go do this. We can go do that.
Yes.
Yes. We actually like each
Yeah.
other.
Right.
Yes.
We really do.
Exactly. Exactly. And so it's like, yes, the honeymoon, sometimes they think the honeymoon is over after year 2 or year 3, but I think we don't find another level to the honeymoon after as empty nesters.
Yeah.
Yes.
I agree 100%.
And I think it's
Yes.
because if when you are intentional about spending that time
Mhm.
together, because as you get older, you grow, you mature, you change. And so
Yes.
constantly learning each other and not being upset because I used to like the color orange and now I don't like the color orange because I'm changing.
Right.
Don't be upset with each
Exactly.
other about the change. Come on, let's grow together. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Jesus help me
Absolutely. Oh
sometimes.
my goodness. I love it. I love how you guys intertwine all of the different challenges that, you guys have gone through. Um, not sugarcoating any of it because, people look at, some of us that have, marriages that and I'll go there. We have great marriages. We love our spouses. They
Yes.
love us, but it's like, people look at us and think that we just got up one day and we just have this amazing marriage. No,
No.
No.
this is work. This is
Yes.
work. This is a job.
Yes.
This is a job.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes they confuse that with some, I don't know, the internet, I guess, the weddings that they see and the relationships that they see. And again, the people that you surround yourself with will either
Yes.
make you or break you. I am a firm
Yes.
believer in that. And as
Yes.
you guys were going through those hardships, you had that core group of people that could come in and say, "Hey, I'm relieving you. Let me take you to dinner. Let me pray for you." They're not necessarily taking the burdens away, but they're helping you carry it. And
Yes.
I notice some of the young couples, they have the tendency to isolate themselves. They're over here and they're living, and nobody's going to tell them what to do and how to do it and all of the things. But no, you really do need a good mentor to help you walk this out.
Mhm.
We seek help to buy a house, we seek help about a car, we seek help about a job, but the thing that you're supposed to do for the rest of your life, oh, I got it.
Yeah.
Right. Right. I can do this. No, seek help. We are not
No.
we weren't created to be loners. That's not why
Absolutely.
we were created. We were created to come together in unity, but be wise,
Yeah.
as the Bible says, and the counsel
Yes.
in which you seek.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Exactly, exactly. And that's why it's so important that you and I have our own values and character and all of those
Yeah.
things already so that we're seeking help that aligns with that.
Correct.
For us it's the word of God. God is the one that created marriage. So let's go back to him and find out how to do it.
Right.
you know?
What's his instructions?
Yes.
You what's the word say? Got it.
Yeah, one of the things you brought up was the internet. And that was something we talked about, that
Mhm.
we feel that that's an issue for couples today. See,
Yes. Yes.
again, I can't help who I am, but I'm a firm believer that iron does sharpen iron.
Mhm.
And so you have to
Mhm.
put yourself around people that you see something in them and you go, wow, I need to find out what that's about. And so I don't want to offend anybody because
Yeah.
we are in an informational age. But the downfall to this
Mhm.
informational age is this. I can find anybody to agree with whatever I feel because all I have to do is type it in.
100.
If, if I say
Yep.
today is blue, I can type in people who agree with me that today is blue, and you'll get thousands of people
Yes.
that will support what you believe. But it doesn't mean that it's the right or it's the truth. So you want to
Exactly.
surround yourself with people that will go back to the word, that will go back, as we say, go back to the
Yes.
manual and see what the manual says.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so,
Exactly. Exactly.
Mhm.
I listen, I was growing up not knowing that there are people out here that actually believe that the world is flat. Right? There was a whole since the internet age, there's a whole group of people out here that actually believe that.
mhm,
And so just think about that for a second. And so if you and I are not firm in what we say we believe, we can be tossed to and fro with every wind of
absolutely.
doctrine that
Yep.
shows up. Yeah,
Mhm. Hey.
absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So again, we're not trying to keep you all night. Would love to, but I won't. So before we wrap, I wanted to ask, what's one practical tool that you would leave or habit that you would well, for one, it helped you guys and you would want to share it with our young couples or with our audience. What is that one tangible tool that you say, you know what, that's our go-to, we did it, and this is how we got here?
So one conversation I had with one of my aunties and uncles when we were young in marriage, and we were low budget, okay, and they
No,
had
no budget.
actually no budget, and they had asked us, when was the last time we went on vacation? And we didn't have an answer.
Mhm.
And one of the things they said to us is that it was important for us, again, going back to being intentional about cultivating our marriage. And they challenged us because, again,
Yes.
we had children. They challenged us to do
Mhm.
two. And I'll explain why two. One, to take the family, because we always did things with the family. Okay, so you have to take the
Mhm.
family. Go ahead, do your vacation, whatever that looks like with the family. But always do a vacation or time with just you and your spouse. So there were
Yes.
times when we couldn't afford to go away, but we would do staycations where it's
Mhm.
just us. We would get in the
Yes.
vehicle and just ride
Mhm.
because it's just us.
Mhm.
That has worked for us. We make it intentional about having that time for us.
And we still do the writing. I
Yeah.
think that is that's our safe place. Um, Even if we're
Yes.
upset with one another, that's our safe place because we can get in the car and we're going to ride. We have a one person audience. Ever you going to talk to me or we not going to talk. We're going to ride until we figure something out. But we're going to have to talk because we're going to need to eat. We're going to need to get something to drink. And so that's that place where we can go, okay, this is ridiculous. We done drove 30 miles and we've said nothing. What's going on? Um, and so that's our safe place. That has
Yeah.
always been our safe place the entire time we've been married. And we
Yeah.
still do it today. And it's much easier now because we're empty nesters. We get up and say, we're going to go, we're going to go. We don't owe anybody any explanations.
Right.
Um, so that
Yes.
I think is the key thing for me. But I want to just speak to
Mhm.
finances, for that couple. There's something that we did. You heard us say earlier that one of the biggest challenges was that so I have to say it this way, and she knows why I'm saying it.
Mhm.
There was too many hands in my wife's pocketbook versus mine.
Yes.
I had no problem saying no.
Mhm.
I had no problem because most
Mhm.
people didn't want to ask me anyway. So we had to have a hard conversation. And when we started looking at the fact that we had more money going out and we were watching other people enjoy their life, but we're sitting home with no money
Mhm.
because we gave money to this person or that person. So I said to her one day, I
Mhm.
said, let's set a goal. Let's change our approach about this. And so I came home and I'll tell you how much it was. I had $200 in cash. And we took the
Mhm.
$200, we put it in an envelope, and we put it in our safe deposit box. And we said, if anybody calls and asks for money, they can get money from this $200. If they give it back,
Mhm.
we'll put it back in the envelope. If they don't give it back,
Mhm.
fine. But when the money from this envelope has reached zero, we have no more money to borrow.
Yes.
And
Yes.
when we did that, it made it easier for my wife to say no because she could honestly say, we don't have no money because this envelope is empty.
It's
It
gone.
wasn't a lie. The envelope was empty. And we saw a great shift.
Mhm.
We saw that people started respecting the fact that, hey, we can't just go to them and that we're going to get money from them. We saw the shift and
Exactly.
now the money that we were lending out, now we could take it and spend it on us.
Mhm.
We could go out and have dinner. We could
Yes.
go out and buy something something wasteful. We might not need. I, One of our greatest dates, I think we ate more junk food on this one date because that's what we wanted. We had cotton candy. We had pretzels. We had a couple of sodas. We didn't care. It was our money and it just felt good
Yeah.
to do
Yes.
that. And
Yes.
even to this day, we have a limit
Mhm.
and we refuse to go past that limit. And so if you don't give us the money back, then hey, the next time somebody comes and say, well, can I borrow money? Well, hey, your cousin didn't get the money back, so there's no money. Um, and I felt like by doing that,
Yeah.
we also taught our children how to do that. So you don't have
Yes.
to always feel,
Mhm.
because so people can't call you and give you that guilt. Oh, well, I'm struggling. Well, we are too. We're struggling to maintain the
Yeah.
happiness that we're
Yeah.
that we're having at our house, and we want to keep the happiness. And so that's the other
Yes.
thing I think we would share to any couple you gotta understand how to handle your
Mhm.
money.
Yes, so true. And you can even the boundaries that that you're talking about, they can I think you can apply that to almost anything
Amen.
because there's so much a lot of times the issues that these that couples are facing is because they have invited so much noise and so
Yes.
many other voices into their marriage. And if you just shut down for a second, because I tell couples all the time, I said, stop reading those posts talking about all men does this and all women does this, because you
Yes.
are not married to all women and all men. Look at your partner. Work with your partner. Have conversation with your partner.
Yes.
You know,
Mhm.
because if you're not if you're not careful, you allow these voices to be the influence in your marriage relationship, and we know that's a disaster.
Yeah.
Yes.
Disaster waiting to happen.
Yes, exactly. But thank you guys so very much for sharing with us. Do you guys have any last minute tips or ideas or anything that we didn't cover that you would want to share before we go?
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
So for me, I would just say this: marriage is a wonderful experience. Don't let
Yes.
anyone make you think that every marriage couple is not being successful. You have two groups
Mm-hmm.
right here that are proof. It will work if you're willing to put the work in.
Mhm.
Again, you hear our
Absolutely.
story, and the story can sound like it's not real, but these are real events that happen in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And we are only here today, one, because of the grace of God,
Yes.
but we're also
Yes.
here because we decided to invest into this marriage. We put full
Mm-hmm.
stock in this marriage. We go the extra mile. And I will be the first to tell you, I love this woman when we got married, but I'm more in love with her today than I was on yesterday.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
so that's my advice to
Absolutely.
anybody. As we always say, fall in love all
Yes.
over again.
All over again.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Antoinette, you want to wrap?
I do. And I want to share too, to be each other's biggest cheerleader. We had mentioned before we have to stop with the competition. You know, there are times
Mm-hmm.
when my light shines brighter and it's okay. There are
Mm-hmm.
times when his light shines brighter. But what we have to remember, no matter whose light is shining bright, it's both of us because we are one. So again, you know, I just echo exactly what my husband say. When some people ask, well, when people ask, who is your best friend? My best friend is Raymond Perry, my husband, right? Now, of course, I have
Mhm.
girlfriends, but he is my friend.
Right.
And your husband and wife,
Yeah.
your lovers and friends,
Absolutely.
be each other's
Yeah.
biggest supporter and cheerleader.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. And you can add nothing else to that because that is facts. That bottom line, you guys. And this has been such an amazing conversation. Again, I wish we could have a part 2 and 3. Um, I want to invite you guys back. And you know, you guys have the freedom to come back and, have more conversations about this. The topic of marriage, you can never exhaust it because we are
Mm-mm.
constantly learning and growing together. We have never been in this season of our lives. And when you've been married more than a decade, in our case, together, what we talk about 65 years of marriage, all four of us.
Yes. Yes.
So so we've learned some things. We've done some stupid things and we've learned from it and we're on the other side of it and constantly growing. So again, thank you both so very much for being here with us. With that being said, thank you so much for joining us on another episode of the State of Our Union and the Fight to Keep It. Thank you and have an amazing day. Thank you for spending this time with me on the State of Our Union. My hope is that today's conversation gave you something to reflect on, something to talk about, and maybe even something to try in your own relationship. If this episode spoke to you, share it with someone you love or someone who needs to hear it. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss a conversation. Remember, strong relationships aren't built on perfection. They're built on intention, honesty, and the daily decision to choose each other. Until next time, guard your heart, nurture your love, and keep investing in the state of your union.